You've been told all your life to protect a man's ego, to soothe it, stroke it, keep it intact like it's made of glass. But what if I told you the secret to unlocking a deeper, more passionate love isn't about pampering his ego, it's about shaking it, just enough to wake him up. See, real confidence in a man isn't tested by praise, it's tested by challenge. And when you challenge him, not with cruelty, but with standards, you ignite something primal in him. Confidence isn't coddled, it's confronted. Most of us grow up thinking that the way to keep a man interested is by constantly affirming him, validating every move he makes, and being the emotional cushion he can fall back on. While support is important, it's a misconception that coddling builds a stronger bond. In reality, true attraction, respect, and love begin when someone feels they are becoming a better version of themselves around you. And that doesn't come from being endlessly agreeable. It comes from being a mirror that reflects both the beauty and the blind spots. When you challenge a man, not with hostility but with honest presence, you activate his desire to grow, to rise, to meet you on your level. Most people misunderstand what it means to hurt a man's ego. It's not about insulting him or diminishing him. It's about not playing into the version of himself he's always been allowed to be. If he's used to women tiptoeing around his flaws, laughing at jokes that aren't funny, tolerating behavior that isn't worthy of a real relationship, then yes, your refusal to do those things might sting, but that sting is often the catalyst. It forces him to see that he's in the presence of someone different. Someone he can't easily win over with charm or surface-level effort. That confrontation, if he's the right kind of man, doesn't scare him away. It makes him curious. It makes him question himself. And in that questioning, real connection begins. The reason so many relationships start strong and then fizzle is because they're built on shallow affirmation. It feels good at first to be constantly praised or agreed with, but over time it creates a dynamic where the foundation is built on comfort, not challenge. And comfort without challenge breeds complacency. When a woman is unafraid to speak up, to draw boundaries, to say, "That's not good enough for me," she immediately shifts the emotional dynamic. She signals that this isn't just another situation where he can slide by with the bare minimum. She's not there to inflate his sense of self-worth. She's there to inspire the kind of growth that lasts. A man's ego may flinch when it's confronted, but his deeper self, the part of him that craves purpose, depth, and evolution, will lean in. It's in the moments when he feels a little off balance that he starts asking better questions about who he is and who he wants beside him. That's where the magic happens. The real transformation in how he sees you and how he sees himself comes from those subtle but powerful moments when you don't reward bad behavior with silence or validation. You stand in your power and let him realize that if he wants to truly have you, he has to rise to meet you. The woman who challenges him becomes unforgettable. In a world full of approval, where flattery is easy to come by, and most people are scared to disrupt the comfort zone, the person who introduces challenge stands out like a spark in the dark. Most men are used to admiration that comes easily, people who want their attention, people who say yes too quickly, people who laugh at their jokes not because they're funny, but because they want to be liked. That kind of attention is forgettable. It doesn't linger in his mind. It doesn't make him stop and wonder who you really are. But the woman who introduces friction, who asks better questions, who doesn't instantly fall into his rhythm, becomes the one he can't stop thinking about. Challenge doesn't mean conflict, and it doesn't mean being difficult for the sake of drama. It means being someone who makes him think differently, someone who doesn't give her time easily, someone who doesn't hand out emotional intimacy just because he showed up. It's about standards, it's about depth. When he sees that you are unimpressed by surface level effort and not swayed by charm alone, it forces him to bring more to the table. He starts to evaluate his own behavior. He starts to realize that winning your attention requires more than the tactics he used before. He can't coast, he can't control the outcome, and that's what makes you powerful in his eyes. There is a kind of emotional imprint that's created when a woman holds a mirror up to a man, not just to reflect what's good, but to make him question what's lazy, what's immature, what's underdeveloped. The moment he realizes he can't predict your response, the moment he notices you won't be swayed by superficial charm, he experiences emotional disruption. That disruption is unforgettable. It snaps him out of autopilot. It wakes him up. Most interactions in dating follow a predictable script. But when you deviate from that script, when you don't laugh at what isn't funny, when you pause before saying yes, when you question something that doesn't sit right, he feels a jolt. That jolt is where respect begins. When he tells his friends about you, he won't talk about how agreeable you were or how quickly you liked him. He'll talk about how you made him nervous in a good way, how you made him think, how he didn't know what was coming next. That's the kind of woman a man remembers, because she wasn't a mirror of his ego. She was a reflection of his potential. The world may be full of people who say yes out of fear of losing someone, but the woman who's not afraid to say no, who challenges his rhythm, who raises the standard for what connection really means, is the one he can't shake from his mind. She becomes the story he revisits long after the moment has passed. Flattery fades, but standards stick. In the beginning of any connection, compliments feel like currency. They're exchanged freely, quickly, and often without much weight. He compliments your smile, you praise his ambition, and for a while it feels good. But what truly makes an impact isn't what's said in the heat of attraction, it's what's expected. Standards are the unspoken framework of every relationship. They dictate how you allow someone to treat you, how much access you grant, and what kind of energy you'll accept. Flattery might make someone feel special in a moment, but it's standards that shape how they show up over time. When a woman has standards, she's not just giving feedback on his behavior, she's defining her self-worth. She's sending a clear message. This is how I operate, and if you want to be a part of my world, this is what I require. That message doesn't need to be loud, and it doesn't need to be harsh. It can be quiet, firm, and graceful, but it speaks volumes. A man may not always remember the compliments you gave him early on, but he will remember how you responded when his actions didn't match his words. He will remember the moments you pulled back, the times you didn't chase, the times you calmly removed yourself when he failed to show up the way he said he would. Standards teach people how to treat you. They create a boundary between what's acceptable and what isn't. And contrary to the fear many people have, having standards doesn't push the right man away. It draws him closer. The right man doesn't want someone who clings to him at any cost. He wants someone who values herself so deeply that he knows he has to bring his best to even be in the same room. When you lead with flattery, you risk blending in with everyone else who's trying to win his attention. But when you lead with standards, you stand out as someone who values substance over surface. Men are used to being praised for the bare minimum, for responding to a text, for being different, for doing the smallest thing right. But when you set a higher bar, when your attention must be earned, when your time isn't given freely, when you don't reward inconsistency, you immediately change the dynamic. You show him that the old rules don't apply here, that if he wants something real, something lasting, he'll have to rise to meet a new level of emotional maturity. And even if he doesn't say it out loud, he feels it. That feeling lingers. Flattery is easy to forget. Standards are impossible to ignore. They echo in his mind when he's alone, when he thinks about you, when he wonders why you stood out in a sea of others. And in those moments, it's not the sweet words you said that haunt him. It's the quiet power of what you expected, what you didn't tolerate, and what you walked away from without hesitation. Mystery grows when you don't feed his ego on demand. The moment you stop offering automatic validation is the moment you become intriguing. Most people think mystery is about silence or disappearing acts, but true mystery is rooted in emotional discipline. It's in how you choose to respond or not respond. It's in the pauses, the hesitations, the ability to hold back the compliment he's expecting or the attention he's used to getting. When you don't give in to the urge to inflate his ego just to keep him interested, you shift the dynamic. You stop being predictable, and in that unpredictability you become magnetic. Many women are conditioned to think that building attraction is about saying the right things, being sweet, showing interest, and being agreeable. But the moment you become the source of easy validation, you lose the power of polarity. You become someone he turns to when he needs to feel good, not someone he strives to earn. That striving is essential. When he knows that your praise is rare but meaningful, he values it more. When he realizes he can't anticipate how you'll react, he starts to lean in, to pay attention, to try harder. The moment he can't predict you, you occupy his thoughts more deeply. Feeding his ego on demand creates a cycle where your worth becomes dependent on keeping him happy. But withholding ego strokes not out of game, playing, but out of grounded self-respect, forces him to see you differently. It tells him that your affection isn't automatic, that your admiration isn't something he can pull out of you with a few charming words or a confident smile. It tells him you are selective, that you don't give your emotional energy to just anyone, and that, for a man who thrives on feeling chosen, is a powerful challenge. Mystery isn't about emotional coldness, it's about self-possession. It's about being in control of how much of your attention, your praise, your warmth you allow someone to access. When you don't hand it over just because he wants it, he starts to wonder what you're thinking. He starts to evaluate himself. He starts to question whether he's done enough to earn your energy. That internal questioning is what creates emotional weight. It makes every interaction feel more meaningful, more charged. He starts to see you as someone whose approval has value because it isn't easy to get. The most unforgettable women aren't the ones who constantly feed a man's ego. They're the ones who make him question if he's good enough to earn their affection. They don't do it by playing games. They do it by being rooted in their value. They don't flatter to keep his interest, they let their standards do the talking. And when a man feels that edge, that mystery, that unpredictability of never quite knowing where he stands, it keeps him engaged. It forces him to pursue, to invest, to level up. Because deep down he knows that not everyone gets to feel seen by you. Not everyone gets to touch your world. Only those who deserve it do. He respects what he earns, not what's handed to him. It's a fundamental truth of human nature. What we work for, we value. And for men, especially those used to getting attention easily, the woman who makes them earn her time, energy, and emotional investment becomes the one they hold in the highest regard. When something is too easy, it's often taken for granted. When it's handed over without effort, it loses its significance. A man might enjoy the feeling of immediate gratification, but deep down, he knows it doesn't mean much if it didn't require anything from him. In relationships, this principle is even more important. When you hand over your affection, your trust, your emotional availability too quickly, it removes the opportunity for him to prove himself. And proving himself is not about playing games, it's about letting him rise to a standard. It's about letting him show that he's serious, intentional, and willing to put in the effort. When you give without discernment, you rob him of the chance to step up. But when you take your time, when you observe, when you let him invest before you reciprocate, you create space for that respect to grow. There's a difference between being open and being instantly available. Being open means you're receptive. You're interested. You're engaged. But it doesn't mean you've already decided he's worthy of everything you have to offer. That decision comes over time, and it's shaped by his consistency, his integrity, his actions, not his words. When you allow him to earn your presence, your attention, your loyalty, he begins to feel pride in the connection. It becomes a reflection of his effort, his growth, and his pursuit. Men don't fall deeply in love with what's easy. They fall for what stretches them, for what makes them want to become more. When a woman has standards, when she doesn't give her heart lightly, it forces him to approach her differently. He slows down. He listens more carefully. He becomes intentional in ways he isn't with others, and in doing so, the respect builds. Because it's not just about liking you, it's about valuing you. That value is tied to effort. It's tied to what he's had to become in order to have a place in your life. He might be attracted to many, but he will only respect the one who didn't let him coast, the one who didn't say yes just because he asked, the one who didn't excuse lazy behavior just because she wanted to keep the peace. That respect is what creates emotional longevity. It's what transforms fleeting interest into lasting devotion. Because once a man feels that he had to rise to earn you, he'll fight harder to keep you, not because he's afraid of losing you, but because he knows how rare it is to find something that didn't come without effort. Something he had to build, something that made him better, something that made him respect himself in the process. His obsession starts when he's unsure he has you. Certainty is comforting, but it doesn't create desire. What creates desire is tension, emotional space, unpredictability, the unknown. When a man feels that your interest is not guaranteed, that he doesn't fully have you yet, his focus sharpens. He pays closer attention. He starts to study your patterns, trying to figure out what makes you tick. That uncertainty is not about manipulation. It's about not rushing to give away your emotional commitment before he's shown he's earned it. When he doesn't feel entitled to your time, your praise, or your heart, he values every moment you give him more. In the early stages of attraction, most people are tempted to give everything up front. They want to prove they're different, special, worth investing in. But what often happens is they overcompensate, offering consistency before the other person has even asked for it. They show up first, text first, compliment first without waiting to see if there's real effort coming in return. And when that happens, the tension disappears, the mystery dissolves, the excitement fades. What once felt like a pursuit now becomes a certainty, and certainty doesn't challenge a man to step up. When a man isn't sure he has you, he operates from a place of emotional curiosity. He starts thinking about what you're doing when you're not responding immediately. He wonders if he's making the right impression. He replays conversations. He plans his next move more thoughtfully. This space between full availability and total distance is where obsession starts to form. Because obsession doesn't grow in predictability, it grows in contrast. It's in the moments where you show warmth and presence, but also pull back when you're not feeling seen or prioritized, that he realizes he's not fully in control of the emotional dynamic. That lack of control drives him wild in the best way. It makes him want to figure you out. It makes him question what he could be doing better. He starts to think not only about what he wants from you, but what you might want from him. That shift in perspective is key. It takes him out of passive mode and puts him in the driver's seat of pursuit. It transforms him from a man who's simply receiving your energy into one who's actively earning it. Men don't become obsessed with what's easy to access. They become obsessed with what feels rare, what challenges them emotionally, what keeps them engaged and inspired. When he knows that your affection isn't something he can just collect and hold on to without effort, he starts to realize that keeping you around is not a passive process. It's an active choice, one that demands his presence, attention, and growth. The more he sees that your world doesn't revolve around him, the more he wants to be a part of it. The more he feels you have options, confidence, and control, the more he feels compelled to fight for his place in your life.